It was a day of terror and seeming chaos, but also a day of great bravery. My assistant said to me from the office, "Go and turn on the television." And then, like much of America and much of the world, I watched the events in New York and Virginia and, one step removed, Pennsylvania unfold. It's hard to reestablish the way in which uncertainty prevailed. Eventually brought down all the planes, and you could watch that on television until there were no other planes except Air Force ones in the sky. It was impossible to figure out what might be next. And there were rumors all over the place about further attacks. At the same time, there was a great sense of solidarity. What can we do to help those who have been affected? What do we do at Notre Dame? We have a Mass, among other things. And so I tried to organize for a Mass at the flagpole in the South Quad. There were about 10,000 people there. We vested in the Knights of Columbus building, and when we came out to proceed up to the dais, it was utterly silent. Off to the side were members of the Muslim Association, because they were part of us, and we didn't want them to feel badly about what had happened. There were people from town. There were a couple of ambulances. Nobody knew what might take place. When I was preparing my homily, I was walking around the lakes on a beautiful September day, and I thought about the statue of the Sacred Heart, which has in Latin, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And that was the focus of my reflections. At the Lord's Prayer, instead of simply holding hands, the students in the congregation, if we'll call that, locked arms like they do at the alma mater. It was a more intimate way of relating and supporting one another. At the end of Mass, as we processed off, it was utterly quiet, as if nobody wanted to leave, because being in each other's company was more important than rushing off to the next place. We called off classes. We tried to make the rectors and others ready to counsel and console. We tried to find out how many Notre Dame families might be directly affected by determining who worked in the World Trade Centers. And then the news came sprinkling in from one source or another. We called off all the athletic events that weekend. And then the following week, we played Michigan State, and we had flags in every seat in the stadium. And we had at halftime buckets in which people could make contributions to the families of those who had died. I went afterwards to the place they count money in the stadium, which I didn't know existed, and they showed me the amount of money that had been raised, $700,000. At halftime, the two bands gathered together and played Amazing Grace. And of course, everybody was affected. I felt I needed to experience firsthand the sights of these disasters. I was in Washington, and I saw from a distance what was going on, the remains of the Pentagon. And I saw my home city pretty much stripped of people. And then about 30 days out, the New York City Police and Fire Departments hosted me at Ground Zero. So I was able to spend time in the middle of all the stuff that had happened. At nighttime, the fire department was spraying water from towers because everything was burning. There was a great acrid smell and the noise of things popping. And every once in a while, they would blow the bugle and play taps as somebody's body had been recovered. And all of the firefighters and police would salute. The next day, I had a chance to go with 2 police officers to the top of a building. And they looked down on what remained of the 2 towers. And one of them said, I was stuck in the hotel there with about 5 other people. And everything had come down, but there was a little pocket. And we thought we were going to die there. Finally, we saw a little light, and we were able to escape. And we think we were the last ones to get out. The other one said, I was right between the 2 towers as part of the rescue effort, and I ran down the escalator, and I yelled to the people that were gawking on the other side of the street, they're going to come down, they're going to come down. And then I ran around the other side of the building to protect myself. He said, I don't know what happened to those people, whether they ran or not. We raised money from other sources and bought an ambulance. And a number of us went to New York to deliver it to St. Vincent's Hospital, which was the closest place for medical care to the 2 towers. Almost the whole staff of the hospital was there, and they thanked us for our generosity. I'll never forget, because a couple of them had lost members of their families. And so I think all of us were deeply involved in what had taken place. Since then, I have been a number of times to the memorial and to the museum. And in a very powerful way, it captures a lot of what went on there. We instituted a Blue Mass here to celebrate those first responders in our own community, and a number of people came out, and they were present for the first couple of Blue Masses that we had here. In my 18 years as president, there was no more powerful set of experiences than things connected to 9/11. On the 10th anniversary, Father Jenkins invited me to preach. We had a mass between the library and the stadium, and it was full of people. And I mentioned this holding arms together, and all the students there did that. At the end of the Mass, somebody said, we're going to go over to the grotto with candles. If any of you want to go, you're welcome. So I left right in the beginning thinking maybe 20, 30 people would go. It took 70 minutes for everybody to go through and put down their candle. So what we've done at Notre Dame is pray and give money and welcome the people affected by all this. And that's why we have another Mass here today, remembering the victims and their families. This is a special occasion for me because, in a sense, I was there and I saw the impact. But also because we know too much violence in our country, too many shootings, too many killings. So let us continue to pray for peace and let us work for peace, each in our own way.